Today I have a 1959 Jaguar XK150 Roadster, and it is absolutely gorgeous. We're gonna walk around this thing, and we're also gonna take it out on a drive. Stay tuned. The design on this car is absolutely beautiful. I'm probably gonna say that a million times in this video, but it's hard to not notice how gorgeous this car is and how timeless it is as well. I mean, you have the long hood, you have the swooping lines. These fenders carry all the way back to the tail of the car. They really just don't make cars like this anymore, and I know I sound kind of like an old person when I say that, but it's really true. This car doesn't have a flat surface on it, which makes it very difficult to restore. Not just anybody can restore these vehicles, and not just anybody has. This car was done by a man named Paul Tsikuris. Now, if you know anything about restoring British classics, you'll probably have heard of Paul Tsikuris. He's one of the absolute best in the business. I actually got a chance to talk to him the other day and go and visit his shop, and he showed me around. And Paul, once again, I want to say thank you so much for that experience. That was awesome. He's one of the nicest guys that you'll meet. I'll go ahead and put a link to the video right up here. And you can kind of take a look and see what he does on a daily basis. But he had a couple of different cars in there, and he finished this one about 10 years ago. This was a bare metal car. It was a ground up restoration that took over 2 years, and it cost over 6 figures to do. So this one has been done right. There were a couple different models for the XK150. You had the coupe, the drop head coupe, and the Roadster. The difference between the drop head coupe and the Roadster is that the Roadster has a little bit cleaner lines. On the drop head coupe, you have this little vent window right here, whereas on the Roadster, the window is just one single piece that's been trimmed out with this chrome trim right here. Looks a lot cleaner, a lot nicer design. But then also on the drop head, whenever you have the convertible, you actually get this little area right here where you can still see the convertible top, and it kind of lays over the back of the car a little bit. So overall, the Roadster design is just a little bit cleaner. The Jaguar XK150 Roadster was really an important car for Jaguar. This is the last time we would see a body and frame separate from each other. This one has a steel box frame chassis. On the XKE, they would make the body into more of a monocoque design, so you would have the chassis built into the body of the car. That one was a little bit lighter, and it started to save on weight. This one is quite a bit heavier. Another thing that we would not see again on the Jaguar is where these fenders, this one has the long swooping fenders on this, which is more of an old time design. On the XKE, remember, we kind of lose that again. But this one has the narrow hood, it has the narrow engine bay, it has the long swooping fenders. It's just a classic and timeless design. I love how these headlights stick out way past the fenders. They're not molded into the fenders like on the XKE. When you think about it, there are no cars that kind of emulate or resemble this styling nowadays. We have a lot of cars that are considered retro and they go back to the 1970s, 1960s styling, but we don't have anything that's been styled after something like this. The Jaguars nowadays are beautiful cars, but they're not quite made like this. One of the things that I really love about these classic Jaguars is the knockoff wire spoke wheels. It's more geared towards racing, and that's kind of the practical application for this. Basically, you have this and you just hit it with a hammer. It spins off, then you take off the wheel and you put it on. These are one directional, so basically the center cap for this one can't go on that side, it has to be on this side. It's very important though that you make sure that all of your wheels are tight before you start, driving, because as Mr. Tsikuris put it, if you don't, then you'll very quickly learn what it's like to drive a car on 3 wheels. This is the first Jaguar production car that had 4-wheel disc brakes, and that's probably because of how heavy the car was. I mean, these cars are pretty heavy for a 2-door sports car. These aren't your 6-piston Brembos. These are not drilled and slotted rotors or anything like that. They're single-piston fronts and single-piston rears. While we're here, let's talk about the battery placement, because it's actually right inside the fender well, which is kind of an odd place to put this thing. If you run out of battery, then it's a little bit harder to jump start than just lifting up the hood. Moving back a little bit, about 2 feet behind the wheel well, you'll see you have this little rectangle right here. This car doesn't have AC, so basically this is what you got. And so if I go inside the car, and there's a little lever that I can kick open or push it with my hand. There's your AC. Basically, it cools down your feet, you get a little bit of fresh air, that's what you got. If we move towards the back of the car, you can see it has this long flowing design that kind of tapers towards the back. And if you look at this little emblem right here, Jaguar is very proud of their racing heritage, and it says winner Le Mans 1951, 53, 55, 56, 57. This car did not race Le Mans. This would be more of a cruising car. This isn't really one of their top-end race cars. But nevertheless, Jaguar has always been a racing car. And you have this little grab handle that you can push the button, then you can see what we've got under there. And this one is actually kind of heavy. You have this little prop that you put in on the back. Just kind of set that right in there. And then the owner of this vehicle has the little tool for the knockoff wheels, and he has a hammer as well. So if you need to do a quick tire change on that, then you have the spare tire under here, and then you can just kind of take off the wheel and be on your way. So taking a look at the interior, some of the things that you notice. First of all, the steering wheel is huge. You got the big cat in the middle, the Jaguar logo. That looks pretty cool. But it's a very simple, very elegant interior. There's not a lot to it. I mean, you have the door handle right here. You have the window roller. They're both finished in chrome. They both look very, very nice. The windshield on this one is actually quite a bit lower in the car. So if you're a little bit taller, then you might get a little bit of wind coming at you from the top. But taking a look inside of this thing, the seats are actually pretty comfortable. The driving position is not bad. So you have, again, this huge steering wheel right here. It's kind of important that you pay attention to where your hands are on this, because if you wear big rings and stuff like that, then you don't want to hit the windshield and break it while you're driving. Some people actually swap these out. This one has rack and pinion steering, whereas on the other ones it had a little bit different system. You have just the absolute tiniest little rear view mirror right here. And it's in a good position because, like, when you have the top down, then you can actually see everything behind you, but it is very small. Taking a look at the shifter, look at how small this thing is. Short throw is kind of an understatement. Just going through the gears, this is the Moss 5-speed transmission. This is the stock transmission that would have come in this car. Some people like to swap them out for newer transmissions to make it a little bit easier to drive, especially at higher miles per hour. Once you get into the 70, 80 mile per hour range, you're kind of, a little bit high in the RPM range. So some people swap them out for daily drivability. This one, though, is original. The interior on this one has been done very well. Mr. Tsikuris definitely paid very close attention to everything inside of this. He also did the upholstery as well. So it's worth mentioning that he doesn't just stop at the bodywork. He does the engine, he does the interior, and he does, the paint, the bodywork, everything on the car. It's very hard to find somebody like that. And the startup procedure on this car is a little bit different. So you don't just turn the key, you actually have to go ahead and turn the key. You hear the fuel pump going. Then you go ahead and push the button and it starts right up. Purrs like a kitten too. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what that engine looks like. In order to pop the hood, we have this little release right here. Go ahead and pull that a couple times, just make sure it's open. Then I'm actually gonna get the owner to help me open up this car because I do not want to mess up the paint on a 2-year restoration. Let's pop it right there.
Then lift up just a bit.
Lift up a little bit.
And just pull out.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. So now that we have the hood open, you can see the beautiful 3.4 liter straight six engine. This is an iron block engine with aluminum heads. One of the ways that you can tell that this is the 3.4 liter is because it has the dual carb setup instead of the triple carb setup on the 3.8. That would be the S model of this car. If you take a look at the position of the radiator, it's actually tilted back a little bit, and that's to allow for a little bit bigger radiator. These cars produced a lot of heat, so cooling was kind of an issue. This one's been fitted with an aluminum radiator. This one would not be the original one for this car, but it makes it a little bit easier as far as daily drivability. A lot of people would put the electric fans on this just to make it a little bit easier for daily driving because, again, with the amount of heat that this thing produces, it's kind of a good idea. This engine isn't as much of an engine as it is a piece of art. I mean, it looks like a piece of jewelry. Once you shine this thing up, it looks absolutely gorgeous. This one is not perfectly shiny and everything because this one is driven. So he takes it out on the road quite a bit and he drives it. It's very easy to polish these things up though and make them look really, really nice. So enough about the car. Now we're gonna get it out on the road and drive it. And I'm a little bit nervous because I do not want to mess up this nice of a car. But anyways, we're gonna go ahead and drive it. It is love bug season in Florida, so there's love bugs freaking everywhere. Seat belts on. Ooh, the seat belts have the little Jaguar logo on them. That's nice, a little attention to detail, I like that. The e-brake on this is reversed, so you actually have to not push the button whenever you're disengaging it, instead of the other way around, so something to note. As we set off, the clutch engagement is actually pretty dang shallow in this car. It's a nice little change. Very heavy at low speeds. This is rack and pinion steering, so this is no power steering assist. First impressions, the brakes Brakes aren't bad, actually. They're better than I thought that they would be. I've heard a lot of people say that the brakes suck on this, which I wouldn't say that, not at all. I mean, they're not super sensitive or anything, but let's give it some power. Oh, yeah. My shifts are not the best. I'm still figuring out this clutch, but man, this thing sounds good. Man, this is awesome. That little rear view mirror, this is the only mirror I have. I guess I didn't say that yet, but this is the only mirror that I have, and it is very small. It's about the size of a Tic Tac case. The gearing is actually pretty far apart. I thought it would be closer together. I mean, the gears are pretty long on this, which is nice. The Moss 5-speed transmission feels so good. I mean, the gear stick is so small. The shifter is very, very nice. Feels good in your hands. See how easy I can downshift this. It sounds so cool. I feel like the dude, you guys remember the villain from Captain America that has that really sick looking car with a really long hood? That's what I feel like when I drive this thing. I feel like a villain. I feel like the cool villain though that everybody likes, not Red Skull. This car is beautiful to drive. It's very well balanced. Now that I've been shifting it a little bit, I can kind of feel out the gears a little bit better, and I know where they are. In this transmission, this little shift knob, this little triangle-shaped shift knob is really, really cool. I like that. Not the most comfortable, but it does the job. Oh, I love that horn. Oh, it sounds so cool. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Oh, it sounds awesome. I love that. The horn is very nice. This is a gentleman's car. This isn't super fast or anything like that. I need it to be in sync. Now we can open it up a little bit. Oh, yeah. This is awesome to drive. This is freaking awesome. Has a good amount of power to it. The 3.4 is a nice engine. There's no replacement for a well-built straight six. Now the 3.8 liter engine is the one that would later go into the E-Type. That was in the S. This is the 3.4 liter. Mr. Tsikuris, you have done a fantastic job on this car. This is awesome to drive. There's no real play in the steering. I mean, it's very well connected. There's nothing loose. I don't feel like anything's rattling on this car. Everything is so soundly put together. It feels brand new. It feels like I just drove this thing off the showroom floor. That is a high quality restoration right there. Well done, sir. Hats off to you. Guys, that is the Jaguar XK150 Roadster. Let me know what you think of this car. I think this thing is absolutely awesome. I want to say a big thank you to Mr. Stuart Harrell for loaning us this car, and also Mr. Paul Tsikuris for giving us all the information we needed for this shoot. Very helpful. If you guys need any restorations done on British cars like this, definitely check him out. We'll see you next time.